Justin Harley, Director of Yardi's flexible technology business in the UK and Ireland. Welcome to the third in our series of video insights about the flexible workspace industry post-COVID-19 in conjunction with Property Week and Workspace. I am delighted to have with us today James Rankin, the head of research or research director for the Instant Group, probably the world's largest advisor on flexible real estate. I hope I got that right, James. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
James, so just a small question to start with. How will the demand for flexible workspace change post-COVID-19?
Just a small question. One we're all desperate to understand and find out, I think. I think demand's going to change in three main ways, and I'll just, I guess, run through those. Firstly, there's the demand from corporates is certainly going to increase. We're finding that with the conversations that we're having with a large number of corporate companies who are our clients, and we advise on their flexible workspace strategy. And they're all saying the same sort of thing, which is the demand that they expect to see for flexible workspace is going to increase. At the same time, we saw an interesting research that was conducted by Gartner fairly recently with sort of financial advisors or CFOs in large corporate companies. And they were starting to say at the moment, they're moving away from that kind of reactionary, experience or thought process that they've been going through for the first sort of month or two of COVID-19. And are now starting to look a little bit more strategically about what are they going to be doing during the future. And Workspace certainly comes into that through whether they're going to be looking to sort of decrease costs and increase efficiencies through Workspace, or if they're just looking to increase the flexibility of their portfolios as a whole. The other point, which I think has been talked about, I've been reading it in a couple of news articles already this week, which is kind of the hub and spoke model, or the diversification of the office portfolio. And I think that's certainly something that we are going to see, but we'd already started to see before COVID-19 came into effect. We've seen a large number of companies look at, how they can expand outside of these large metropolitan hubs, where traditionally they've gone because that's where the talent pool is based. But the way that we work now, and the fact that we can work remotely, really means that we can work from much larger distances outside of those central hubs or wherever our corporate HQ might be. And that really does rely on more of a hub and spoke type model. At the moment, I think it's fair to say in the flexible workspace world, maybe the supply isn't quite there yet, certainly in some of the suburban markets. The big are still very much in the large cities globally, and we're going to need to see supply increase out of these big centres and into the suburban markets. It's something that we have started to see, but it's still an ongoing process. If we look at the UK during the second half of the year, the data that we've been looking at shows around 4,000 sort of lease events happening, of roughly about 18 million square feet of space being exited, and I think a large proportion of that will be those companies will be thinking very seriously about the flexible workspace and what does it offer to them going forward. The final point, and it's something that is quite often overlooked, I think, is the growth of the entrepreneurial sector. If we go back to the global financial crisis, on the back of that, we saw huge amounts of growth from startups and entrepreneurs who, frankly, it was the perfect time for them to get into that, whether that was because they'd lost their jobs or they just felt they could take that leap. And I think we'll start to see the same sort of thing happening going on from post-COVID, Justin, and that again will certainly help the flexible workspace sector in terms of driving demand into it, because it's the natural environment for those sort of individuals and small companies who are looking to grow. Just in terms of demand, our own platform, we've started to see over the last couple of weeks quite strong kind of return, certainly in terms of interest or inquiries for flexible workspace. Of our top sort of 13 global markets, 10 of those are now within sort of 15% of pre-COVID levels. And actually 5 of those markets are now showing interest levels higher than they were pre-COVID. So the bounce back is is starting to happen. It is speeding up, and then some of the markets, as I say, we're already seeing interest and demand strip where it was before the pandemic.
Thanks for your insight. Absolutely fascinating and great to see such positivity. If you were to give one bit of advice, and I was operating a number of buildings, what would that be?
I think the overriding sentiment is to remember that this industry, the flexible workspace industry, has traditionally come out of periods of financial difficulty or challenge in a much stronger position. We saw that after the global financial crisis, and I very much expect to see that again coming out of COVID-19 pandemic. Of the companies that we're talking to, whether that's large corporates or small SMEs, are looking at the flexible workspace industry as a solution to help them grow and move forward fast forward.
Brilliant, James. Thank you very much indeed. And it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to seeing you when we all get out of lockdown.